Hi, I'm Arlene White, and I want to welcome you to this edition of the Global Gateway. Nothing is more important in our cross-border region than the ease of transportation and the export potential that we know exists and has always exists between Canada and the U.S. My guest today is Meg Lauerman. She's project manager for Continental 1, which is a connected highway that's going to make things easier for all of us on both sides of the border. We're just going to take a quick station break, and when I come back, I'll introduce you to Meg. Meg, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Arlene. I'm very happy to be here today.
That's good. Well, I'm glad that you could make it. I know how busy you've been with your project because there's been a lot of changes going on with Continental 1 over the past probably 12 to 18 months. And I would like folks to first find out a little bit about you and your background and what got you involved in this project in the first place.
Well, thanks for asking. You know, I don't get to think about that enough, and I think it's a really good place to start.
Yes.
Because I really got interested in Continental 1, which is Route 219 in New York State. We'd start up in Toronto, come down the QEW, cross over the Peace Bridge. But I got interested in Route 219 because of the safety. Traveling up and down the highway when my kids were really little, we were just talking about kids.
Yeah.
I really worried that my kids were not safe on that highway. It was a highway we used very much as a family. And then I heard about a tragic accident within our social circle.
Right.
And everyone lived, but just the outcomes of that really frightened me. And I thought, you know, I want to do something. I want to change this highway and make it safer. And from that, I got into volunteering for the Route 219 Association and for Continental 1.
How long ago was this?
Boy, that was about 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, Continental 1 has been around for about 11 years, but it came out of the old Route 219 associations.
Okay.
So that was before we had all these other reasons, or I was even aware of all the other reasons to complete the highway. But, you know, things start at home so often.
Oh, that's right. You're absolutely right. So let's describe Continental 1 because I want to make it really clear to folks. This is not a brand new highway we're talking about.
Right.
We're talking about connectivity through existing routes. So can you describe again the route that this takes?
Sure. Continental 1 is a highway that's on the ground. It's not a new highway at all. It's just the name given to several different roads when they're connected, existing roads. So we start up in Toronto, come down the QEW, cross over at the Peace Bridge, then get on Route 219 after Route 90. Now 219 is going to go from New York down through, all the way through Pennsylvania, into West Virginia and Maryland, and then hook up with highways that are already existing down through North Carolina, South Carolina, and then Route 95, which I think everyone is familiar with, all the way down to Miami in Florida.
Yeah.
So about 85% of those roads are already done, have been completed for decades. So we just need about 20 miles of new highway. And you know, Arlene, I think a lot of people don't understand that when Route 219 is widened, it won't be widened in place. A new place will be found for that highway that'll be parallel to where it is now.
Right.
So we won't be destroying historic homes, really. We'll be finding a new place for the road to be built.
Where is the existing 219?
Route 219 goes down through Springville and up from Route 90 down to Springville. It's already a very safe 4-lane highway. Yeah. From Springville down to Ellicottville, which I think a lot of
Canadians are very familiar with that route. Yes.
Yeah, that is just a 2-lane road.
Right.
And it can be very dangerous, but it's most of all unbelievably inefficient. It wastes fuel. It wastes a lot of time. It's not a good road right now. But it goes down to Springville and then down to Salamanca, which I think some of your listeners and watchers might be familiar with because there's a Seneca gaming place there, a casino right there. Yeah. And then it just goes straight over into Bradford, Pennsylvania, where there's a college and a very good hospital, and then continues on down south from there as Route 219.
And the whole purpose of this is most direct, most efficient route. Again, you mentioned things like safety, fuel and energy savings.
And of course, jobs.
Right.
This is a huge economic development project.
Let's talk about that.
Well, completing the highway will bring 7,000 direct jobs and over 2,500 indirect jobs to Western New York. Now, that's not counting the changes that'll take place in Canada.
Right.
I think most people know that we have so many logistics centers now, places where trucks can come, offload, become more efficient, repack the truck, bring it over the border. That brings a lot of jobs into Western New York and to Ontario, definitely. That is accomplished most efficiently on a 4-lane highway. People want to be where the roads cross. Route 90 and Route 219 cross and become QEW up here. So it's jobs for Canada and for Western New York.
I was going to say, coming from the position of a mom worried about safety to the full-time project manager must have been a tremendous evolution, learning curve, transition, or was it? Was it something that you had been so naturally interested in that it was very easy?
I think at that moment when I sat down my first day, it was a big transition. But up to that point, the career I'd had before that, had a lot of public speaking. I had worked in a law firm and done quite a bit of writing there.
Yeah.
So I think we've spoken about this before. I think the things you do in your life all seem to come together.
Right.
The skills you learn in very different jobs, you find yourself thinking, well, I'm using the same thing here.
Right. And
So
it's the things that make you passionate that really drive you forward.
Right, and I think that's the reason that we get up in the morning and think, I really want to get this done. I think you have to be a natural optimist to try to want to build a highway in these economic times. But it works.
Yes.
It works.
Now, again, you said that discussions about Continental 1 have been going on for at least 10 or 11 years now. What have been some of the roadblocks, if you'll pardon the pun, to making everything move forward, and where are some of the breakthroughs that you've had recently?
Well, some of the roadblocks have been completely out of anyone's control, and really the largest roadblock was the economic downturn.
Right.
You know, no one could have seen how that affected both of our countries so terribly and so completely. So as I mentioned before, down in Springville is complete, and that section was underway right in the middle of the economic downturn. So the next section was put aside for another study, which is always
These are environmental
difficult.
impact studies, or?
There's a supplemental environmental impact study that needs to be done before the next section can be complete, and all those things just happen to happen at the same time.
Right.
Basically, that environmental study, the way that the federal government counted wetlands changed in the long period of time that it took for that section to get on board. I don't think you really have as many of the same problems here in Canada. I think in Canadians,
I think if you ask some people in Niagara region about wetlands and what it does to what they can do in terms of development and environmental protection, there's a lot of similar issues. But again, it may not always be at the federal level. It could be the state or the provincial level. So I think there's all kinds of different layers that you have to go through now that we would have never thought about 50 years ago.
Well, that's very true, and I think we should be very careful and very good stewards of our environment.
Right.
But the things that catch us up short that you never see coming, it's shocking.
Yeah.
However, completing this highway is going to make the air cleaner. It's going to make fuel efficiency better. It's going to take big trucks out of small towns and onto safer highways. So we are doing this very much as good stewards of of our environment.
Right.
So that's one of the roadblocks that came up. So we needed a study. The funding of the study got pulled when all the money got pulled back. And we're on the road towards moving that forward. Not only that one study, but with that construction funding, we're all the way down. So in a strange way, it's kind of good, because now we'll be able to complete all of New York State and have one plan and really get that going. The engineering has been done, the route has been chosen, that'll be looked at again, but there's a very good plan in New York that just needs
I think we learned that timing is everything, and sometimes you just have to go with the flow, and there's reasons for delays, as you say, that you can't avoid, but that sometimes ends up being a silver lining and makes things better in the long run. So that's the important thing to remember. We're going to take a quick station break. When we come back, I want you to talk about the other we's that are involved in Continental One and how this was all brought together under one organization to make it happen. Okay?
Thanks.
The year is 1812. The fog of war covers North America.
Discover1812.com invites you to experience the War of 1812 through those who lived it.
From the battlefields to the Great Lakes.
Share in Niagara's history at Discover1812.com.
Dear Children's Wish Foundation of Canada, thank you for sending me Rory the Lion. That means I'm going to get my wish, and that makes me really, really happy. Yesterday he was sad, but I told him, it's okay, Rory, only 2 more needles until my wish. I will send you pictures from the top of the Rocky Mountains. Love, Emily.
Imagine the difference a wish can make. Click on childrenswish.ca and give today.
Here we go.
Okay.
All right? Now, let's talk about who are the visionaries that made this happen? Because obviously people can have a vision, as you did as a resident of the area. We need to fix this, we need to make this better. But what was the catalyst, and who were the visionaries that brought this together under the Continental One organization?
Well, about 11 years ago, as I mentioned, it was the 219 associations, mostly in Pennsylvania. And that was Mike Glask, Chris Hauser, Wally Smith of AAA up here in Western New York. We also had Canadian members then and now. Larry Fontaine of Fontaine Transport has been a supporter of ours for several years now, and really has been a wonderful advocate of the Canadian concerns and what needs to be done there.
Yeah.
So we really reach out to many different people and many different and really disparate organizations. We have been very lucky that General Motors has recently come on as a supporter and a vocal supporter.
That's great. That's what you need.
That's really great.
Yeah.
They're a wonderful organization, and I think they really get it, that opening Route 219 is going to be a safe and fuel-efficient highway. So when they really came in and were really willing to listen, and really came on in a way that was wonderful. But you know, we also work, Arlene, with an awful lot of colleges and universities up here in Ontario, and then we also work with Niagara University, Canisius College, Bradford campus of University of Pittsburgh at Bradford. St. Bonaventure has been a wonderful
That's a really broad-based network.
It really is, because you know, these colleges get it, that bringing in students from other countries or bringing students from different parts of the U.S., you need good access to the college.
Right.
And for Western New York and West Pennsylvania and Niagara region, that is Route 219 in New York State. That we all go across the border. We all need efficient access at the border, but on the highways to and from.
Yeah.
So we work with hospitals. We work with Triad Distributing, which is the beer.
Yeah.
A distributor in Western New York. Really small firms, but we also, I was mentioning to you before that I've met with every mayor in the Niagara region. We meet with the mayors, the Rotaries, the Kiwanis, and I'm always delighted if anyone is watching and wants me to come speak to the organization.
That's great.
I would be honored to do that. what I really want to do is just explain to people what is a trade corridor and why is it important to have a trade corridor in the Niagara region and in Western New York, Western Pennsylvania. Why is that good for my community? And it's funny, when I go to different communities, so often people in Canada will say, I get it, we need good access.
Right.
But probably people in New York don't want it. Or
Really?
People, yeah, people in New York say like, well, we absolutely want a better highway system. But I bet those people in Pennsylvania don't really want it. So I think because it's been around so long and it's been an ongoing conversation, we all think, why hasn't this good idea come to fruition earlier? And
but again, timing.
Right.
Timing and the circumstances that you're dealing with, right?
Right. And we're very lucky now that Governor Cuomo in New York has taken such an interest in completing transportation projects.
Yeah.
He really gets it.
Yeah.
So
well, I think everybody's finally cluing in that transportation is the key.
Yes.
As you say, it's the access. If I can't get to you, I can't get to you.
Right.
And I'm going to go someplace I can get to.
And it's funny, we can use email and we can talk about the, you know, but really you need wheels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really.
Now, is it just this 20-mile piece of highway that is the last link to all of this?
Well, in New York it sure is.
Yeah.
When you get down into Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania is about 200 miles of Route 219. There's several spots where it already is a 4-lane highway. But to fill in here and there is about 3 different projects.
Okay.
If you start at the south and move up, there's about an 11-mile piece there that I believe it should be starting at this point very soon.
So this is Florida or the Carolinas we're talking about?
No, we're talking about southern Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Still north, but the south.
Right,
okay.
right, because in Florida and North Carolina, it's already a 4-lane
everything is
highway.
done.
It's all done.
So everything is focused here on Pennsylvania, New York State.
New York State, right.
Wow.
So there's 2 sections, the Pennsylvania section. If everything goes well in Congress and once the funding comes through there, they were waiting on a funding match, which I believe when we're on air now, it'll be done and they can start right away. It's very much a shovel-ready project.
Yeah.
In Western Pennsylvania, a coalition has come together in the Pennsylvania Senate to complete Route 219 in the Bradford area. That is a really exciting development.
Wow.
And I know that a big reason that happened was the work we've done in New York and the work we've done in southern Pennsylvania. Now that
it's come together.
Bradford is now like the pickle in the middle.
Right.
Right? The one section of Pennsylvania that really needs a good engineering study and really needs to get off the ground.
So these projects need federal and state working together.
Right.
Is the county involved in the areas in question?
Sure. You know, I think anywhere you go, there's going to be different levels, and each layer is going to have some very important input. But Route 219 in Pennsylvania, that's a decision really of the Pennsylvania State House.
Okay, it's not a federal highway.
Well, they would get federal funding,
Right.
but it would not be a federal highway.
Okay, so the state does make the ultimate decision on that. And
Right.
same thing with New York.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because again, on the Canadian side, we have the same issue. There's federal roads, and there's provincial
Right.
roads, and there's regional and municipal.
Yeah.
And sometimes you scratch your head and go, okay, why does this have to be so difficult? But
Well,
again, there's
yeah.
all these jurisdictional issues that you can't get
Yeah.
away from.
And so often there's a pot of money here that you can't use to get a highway built there.
Right.
And it can be very complex.
Yeah.
But it's an education.
Oh,
That's
I'm
for
sure. You're the
Yeah.
professional on this now.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think so many times we turn to our partners, and we work with your organization. We work with really anyone we can to say, like World Trade Center, Buffalo, Niagara. You know, what do you advise that we do?
Right.
Who are other partners we can reach out and get more information?
Yeah.
We're a very small organization. But our reach is wide because of the contacts we've made.
Yeah, and that's always critical, right? It's the people that you can connect with, the message that you get out, and everybody comes together for the reasons,
That's
right
right.
reasons.
That's right, and that's why I think our website has been such a strong advocate for us, because it's easy enough to go on continental1.org.
Yeah.
and get the information right there.
That was perfect. We're going to take a quick station break. When we come back, I'd like you to talk about next steps and what the critical next pieces are that other people might be interested in getting involved in.
All right.
Okay? Good.
For many of us, the haunting call of the common loon on a still lake captures the essence of the Canadian wilderness. Most loons mate for life, returning to the same lake year after year. But development, pollution, and human recreation are chasing the loons from their natural habitat, threatening their future. To learn more about the loon and discover how you can help protect Canada's wildlife, visit hww.ca.
Volunteers are very important in the community. People think that things just happen sometimes. Volunteering at TV Cogeco is fun, and there are a lot of benefits to obviously giving back to your community, but at the end of the day, it's just a fun time to come out and you get to do things that you wouldn't normally do, work with cameras, and you're actually putting together a TV show that's going out to the community. At the end of the day, that's just a fun thing to do.
Now, Meg, before the station break, we talked about the importance of having many partners involved in what you're doing, and there's obviously been a lot of people that you've reached out, touched, that understand the importance of this to cross-border trade, but also to job creation, to fuel efficiency, to the kinds of things that we need to be thinking about in North America right now. What are the next steps for you in terms of what you need and how people can get involved? What's important going forward now?
Well, we do really want and need people to become involved. We're, as I mentioned, a very small organization, and we are really on a big funding drive right now. I would be grateful and delighted to have your listeners reach out, look onto our website, take a look around. If they agree, which I hope they will, with the importance of Continental One, to donate to us. We're looking for large and small donations, and every bit helps. We're on a big fundraising drive right now, and things are going well. But we really need to keep Continental One going because really this is the time.
Right.
So many things have come forward and are all moving to move all these very small projects forward at the same time. So this is our chance to complete
that's great.
Continental One.
Now, in terms of some of the Canadian partners, you talked about the trucking industry. You've obviously got the tourism industry involved. You've got different partners on both sides of the border. Who are some of the key people that you still need to reach out here on the Canadian side?
Well, we're looking for businesses that'll, you know, not just tourism, but also other colleges, those who will benefit, hospitals, anyone who's moving goods over the border, or tourists themselves, busing companies, trucking companies. So many of us will benefit from Route 219 being completed and from the completion of Continental One. Anyone who's thinking of going to Florida in the next few years, think of the time that that's going to save, several hours when this is completed. And think about donating or just supporting us. As I mentioned earlier, I would love to come and talk to any organization who's interested in knowing more about the benefits of Continental One. And there's a place on our website to shoot me an email and reach out, and I'd be very, very honored to come and see anyone.
Okay, that's good. Well, we'll see how many people are able to take you up on that, and we'll put you in front of some different groups.
Thanks.
Because that's important. That's very important. In terms of, I know that there's work being done in economic development under Governor Cuomo now in New York State, and is there a good chance that you're getting the strong support you need to move all the project forward for the 219 in New York right now?
We absolutely are. We are very involved in that REDC process, and the first process was
that's Regional Economic
Development Committee.
Okay,
right,
yes.
Too many acronyms.
Yeah, that's okay.
The first process was very quick. Everything had to be done really in about 11 weeks. Now we have 9 months, and so we can really plan again. Continental One was one of the major initiatives of the Logistics and Binational Committee, and we are certainly right right at the top again.
Yeah.
So I think Western New York is really getting it, that this is our time to complete Route 219.
Well, and I think it pairs up with a lot of the different gateway projects and initiatives that are being discussed and planned for on the Niagara side of the border in Canada. So again, as you say, timing is everything, and if you can pair these projects, match them, you can leverage resources, and you can maximize the benefits for everybody, which is what we're trying to do with a whole bunch of economic development initiatives now.
That's absolutely right. Remember when they had the Sabres, and you were so instrumental.
Oh, with the World Juniors.
The World Juniors.
Yes.
And everyone in Ontario really worked together to get everybody across the border.
Right.
If we could bring people up from Ohio, from Western Pennsylvania, as efficiently on 219 as you worked to get them across the bridge, think of how many people would be in there to see the Sabres and to enjoy,
right,
you know, things
coming
up here in
into
Ontario
Niagara.
if they could get there more efficiently.
That's right, and that's the bottom line. If we make it easy for people, if they're accessible, then these organizations and the operators are going to see people coming back from different
Right.
locations. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it makes a big difference.
It does, and I think that's why I'm interested in people. Take a look at the website, see if you would like us to come speak, think about donating.
That's perfect. And the website one more time?
Continental1.org.
Okay, that's perfect. Well, I really appreciate the work that you're doing. I've known you for a few years. I know how passionate you are about this and how hard you work to make sure that people understand the importance. And we'll definitely bring you back for updates.
Well, thank you, Arlene.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Great.
I appreciate it.
If you've enjoyed this program, we'd love to hear your comments, and you can get a hold of me by emailing me at btaglobalgateway@gmail.com. You can go to our website for more information about Meg and Continental One. It's btaglobalgateway.com. And again, thank you so much for tuning in for the program, and we'll see you again next week. Take care. Good job.